the scriptures that speaks about learn to do right, seek justice and justify it, and defend the oppressed. And so that's was my motivation. I'm often referred to as being a civil rights activist, and I am simply a Christian doing what the scripture tells me to do, what the Lord would have me to do, to love my neighbor as myself. There were 328 of us that rode from Montgomery to Jackson, Mississippi, a total of 60 buses, a few at each, for over a 5-month period. I knew nobody. I didn't know anybody in the movement, no one in the rides or anything. I just simply called Dr. King's office and volunteered to be a Freedom Rider. And I flew down to Atlanta, Georgia, joined 6 others to be a Freedom Rider. And we went through training, we were cursed, we were spit on, we were kicked, we were hit, trained in nonviolence. And we were trained not to respond to any verbal or physical attack. And before leaving on the bus in Montgomery for Jackson, Mississippi, my necktie was cut partially behind my neck so that if someone tried to choke me, the necktie would come off easily. Shortly out of Montgomery, one of the Freedom Riders blew our cover when he asked a white woman to let a black woman sit beside her in this vacant seat. And the white woman was blocking the seat by putting her leg across it. And that's when mayhem broke out. And about an hour later, we arrived in Selma, Alabama, a hotbed of racism and violence. And Jim Clark, the most notorious of all the sheriffs in the civil rights movement, the one who used cattle prods and dogs, who was responsible for the Bloody Sunday, came on the bus and drug Ralph off the bus. And I learned later that Ralph was placed in a cell of 5 people, and he was stomped and beaten, and his ribs were all fractured, and he was flown to Chicago for treatment at Michael Reese Hospital. And then we had 5 hours more to ride. It was 5 hours from Selma to Jackson, Mississippi. And as we crossed the Mississippi state line, I knew the billboard, "Welcome to Mississippi," wasn't for me. And I was determined to get to the colored waiting room no matter what. And I did, and was arrested, interrogated for a number of hours, and accused of being a communist and so on. There were a lot of billboards in the South at that time claiming that Dr. King was a communist. The movement, we were vilified just like things are happening today. It isn't hard to find a television channel that doesn't have something to lie about. But anyway, Dr. King at that time, his approval rating was only about 24%, according to the Gallup poll. When I went back to Chicago, the police were there for me, met me at the airport, and I thought I was under arrest again, and it wasn't that. It was they were there to protect me, and I was put under detail for 2 weeks because I went on the Freedom Ride. The church that I depended so much on as a kid disfellowshipped me. Back then, I felt alone in my thinking. I came back from the Freedom Rides. I knew nothing. I didn't know any of them. I wasn't a part of any of their groups. I come back to Chicago, and then I'm just doing what I feel God would have me do. And after 5 months, the signs were taken down. The colored only, white only signs were taken down. We ended segregation. 328 people What would happen in Grand Rapids if 328 pastors talked about justice? If there was a freedom ride today, I'd be right there. Yes, I would. If I could do anything that I'm not doing, I would do it.